Resilient ownership, the practical philosophy of habits, grit, and empowered leadership. Chapter 5. Grit. Passionate perseverance as competitive advantage. In the philosophy of resilient ownership, grit emerges as the sustaining force that bridges intention with long-term achievement. Defined as the powerful combination of passion and perseverance directed toward long-term goals, grit represents the steadfast commitment to stay the course through plateaus, setbacks, and obstacles that inevitably arise in any meaningful endeavor. It is not raw talent, intelligence, or momentary enthusiasm that separates high performers from the rest. It is this durable blend of deep interest, sustained over years, and the relentless effort to keep moving forward. Without grit, the growth mindset risks becoming passive optimism. Atomic habits devolve into short-lived routines. Intrinsic drive fades when immediate rewards are absent, and extreme ownership collapses under the weight of repeated difficulty. Grit supplies the competitive advantage, the ability to outlast, outwork, and out-improve others by treating achievement as a marathon powered by consistent, purposeful effort. Grit reframes the psychology of success. Talent and skill matter, but effort counts twice. First, effort builds skill from whatever starting talent exists. Second, effort transforms that developed skill into actual achievement. This effort counts twice formula underscores why gritty individuals often surpass those with greater natural ability. A person with moderate talent but exceptional perseverance compounds small daily gains into mastery that outpaces sporadic genius. In resilient ownership, this insight integrates directly with the growth mindset foundation. Chapter 1. The belief that abilities expand through deliberate effort provides the psychological soil in which grit grows. A fixed mindset views setbacks as confirmation of limited potential, quickly eroding perseverance. A growth mindset, by contrast, interprets the same setbacks as temporary information about current methods or preparation, fueling the determination to adjust and continue. Grit, therefore, is the behavioral expression of a growth-oriented worldview, the willingness to invest effort repeatedly because improvement is believed possible. Passion in grit is not the fleeting excitement or romantic infatuation often glorified in popular culture. It is a consistent, deepening interest maintained over years, a top-level ultimate concern that organizes lower-level goals into a coherent hierarchy. Passion provides direction and energy, preventing aimless perseverance from becoming mere stubbornness. When passion is present, daily work feels aligned rather than forced. This sustained interest aligns seamlessly with intrinsic drive. Chapter 3. Autonomy gains vitality when individuals direct their efforts toward self-chosen domains of interest. Mastery becomes intrinsically rewarding as skills deepen in areas that genuinely matter. Purpose emerges naturally when work serves something larger than immediate results. Without this passionate core, intrinsic motivation risks becoming mechanical compliance. With it, motivation becomes self-renewing across the long horizon that defines real excellence. Perseverance, the second pillar of grit, is the capacity to maintain effort despite boredom, frustration, failure, or lack of visible progress. It is stamina applied consistently, showing up and doing the work when motivation wanes, when results plateau, and when easier alternatives tempt. Perseverance does not deny the reality of difficulty. It refuses to let difficulty dictate the outcome. In practice, it manifests as deliberate, focused improvement, rather than mindless repetition. The gritty individual identifies weaknesses, seeks feedback, and adjusts approaches systematically. This directly supports atomic habits, Chapter 2, as the daily architecture. Tiny, consistent behaviors, habit stacking, environment design, tracking streaks, distribute perseverance across manageable units, preventing burnout while accumulating compound gains. When habits make daily effort automatic and visible, perseverance stops feeling like heroic willpower and becomes sustainable routine. The 1% daily improvement becomes psychologically bearable because each small win reinforces identity and direction. Grit elevates extreme ownership, Chapter 4, from reactive accountability to proactive resilience. Total ownership demands confronting every outcome without deflection, but sustaining that stance over years requires the perseverance component of grit. Setbacks are owned fully, yet passion for the larger goal prevents ownership from descending into self-punishment or paralysis. Instead, ownership becomes diagnostic and forward-looking. What did I miss? How do I adjust? How do I ensure better preparation next time? Gritty leaders model this publicly, turning personal accountability into cultural norm. Teams learn that perseverance through owned challenges builds collective strength rather than individual exhaustion. This integration creates freedom. The gritty owner controls their response, sustains effort, and gradually expands influence over outcomes. The 4 psychological assets that cultivate grit: interest, practice, purpose, and hope, map elegantly onto the broader philosophy of resilient ownership. Interest, the development of passion, is fostered through discovery, deepening, and supportive environments, aligning with autonomy in intrinsic drive. Practice emphasizes deliberate work on weaknesses with feedback and increasing challenge, reinforcing atomic habits and the growth mindset's embrace of effortful improvement. Purpose connects daily actions to something beyond the self, amplifying intrinsic motivation and providing the why that sustains perseverance during hardship. Hope, the optimistic belief that effort will eventually pay off and that one can improve, is the optimistic self-improver stance that grounds realistic positivity. Hope prevents grit from becoming grim determination. It infuses perseverance with the expectation of growth and eventual advancement. This hopeful, purposeful perseverance directly counters the 5 dysfunctions of a team, Chapter 8. When teams share a gritty orientation, trust builds because members see consistent effort and ownership rather than excuses or withdrawal. Healthy conflict emerges around how best to advance shared long-term goals rather than personal protection. Commitment strengthens as purpose and passion create alignment around enduring objectives. Accountability becomes natural when perseverance is modeled and expected. No one avoids responsibility because the culture values sustained effort over short-term image. Results orientation sharpens because gritty teams measure progress against long horizons, refusing to celebrate activity without advancement. Collective grit thus transforms potential dysfunction into cohesive, resilient performance. Radical candor, Chapter 9, and the coaching habit, Chapter 10, become more effective in gritty cultures. Direct, caring feedback lands constructively when recipients operate with a growth mindset and gritty perseverance. Challenges are viewed as investments in long-term development rather than personal attacks. Coaching questions. What is the real obstacle here? How does this connect to our larger purpose? What small adjustment could increase our perseverance? Activate the assets of grit by encouraging self-reflection on interest, practice, purpose, and hope. Leaders who coach this way multiply grit across the team, replacing advice giving with empowerment that builds autonomous perseverance. Disciplined greatness, Chapter 7, and the hedgehog concept find their sustaining power in grit. Identifying the intersection of what one can be best at, what drives results, and what ignites passion requires time and iterative refinement, a process sustained only by passionate perseverance. Level 5 leadership, with its blend of humility and fierce resolve, embodies grit. Humble enough to seek continuous improvement, driven enough to maintain effort year after year. Disciplined thought, people, and action demand the stamina to maintain focus amid distractions and the perseverance to enforce standards consistently. Without grit, even the clearest strategic insight dissipates. With it, disciplined focus compounds into lasting excellence that outlasts competitors relying on talent or short-term intensity. Genuine influence, Chapter 6, scales through demonstrated grit. People are drawn to and trust leaders who exhibit consistent passion and perseverance because these qualities signal reliability and depth. Empathetic connection deepens when leaders share the real struggles of long-term effort while modeling hopeful perseverance. Influence earned this way is authentic rather than charismatic performance. It inspires others to develop their own grit, creating virtuous cycles of collective resilience. Cultivating grit within resilient ownership is itself a gritty process. It begins with clarifying a top-level goal or purpose that resonates deeply. Leaders then build supporting systems, atomic habits that make daily practice inevitable, environments that reinforce interest and purpose, feedback mechanisms that support deliberate improvement, and cultures that celebrate effort and learning from setbacks. Measurement focuses on long-term indicators, consistency of effort, depth of skill development, alignment with purpose, rather than short-term metrics alone. Challenges are anticipated and normalized. Plateaus are expected waypoints. Failures are data for adjustment, and external obstacles are owned as variables to navigate, rather than excuses to quit. Leaders model grit publicly by sharing their own long-term journeys, admitting current limitations while demonstrating sustained effort toward growth. Teams co-create gritty norms, shared language around perseverance, rituals that reinforce purpose, recognition systems that value consistent contribution over flashy wins. The growth mindset provides the belief that grit itself can be developed. Atomic habits supply the daily mechanisms. Intrinsic drive ensures the effort feels meaningful. Extreme ownership ensures accountability for maintaining direction. In a world that often rewards quick wins, viral moments, and apparent effortless success, grit offers the quiet competitive advantage of resilient ownership. It rejects hype in favor of substance, slogans in favor of stamina, and talent worship in favor of effort compounded over time. The gritty leader or team does not avoid difficulty. They expect it and prepare to outlast it. They treat life and leadership as a marathon, conserving energy, maintaining direction, and finding satisfaction in the deepening of skill and contribution along the way. This chapter reveals grit as the integrative muscle of the philosophy. It powers the long-term application of every preceding principle and prepares the ground for those that follow. When passionate perseverance becomes cultural norm, motivation sustains itself through purpose, habits endure through visible progress, ownership feels empowering rather than crushing, and excellence emerges as the natural outcome of sustained, directed effort. Grit is not an added trait, but the expression of resilient ownership lived over time. It is the competitive advantage available to anyone willing to commit passionately and persevere consistently. In the end, the gritty do not merely survive challenges, they are forged by them into more capable, more purposeful, and more resilient versions of themselves and their organizations. This is the realistic positivity at the heart of the philosophy. Not that success will be easy or guaranteed, but that sustained effort, rooted in passion and grounded in ownership, reliably expands what is possible.